Well, Scott, you are provocative. Yeah, it's totally a compliment. Absolutely. You actually need to know that provoke is actually one of my favorite words in the English language. And when I was a child, I thought the same thing about the word provoke. It was usually used in this kind of negative way, as in, Susan, don't provoke your brother, right? Not that I ever did that. It wasn't until much later, when I was studying scripture, that I got how juicy that word actually is. To provoke is to call forth. It's from the Latin, the root pro, along with the word vocare. Okay, you should hear the word vocal in there, or revoke, or invoke. The earliest known use of the word provoke is in Middle English, and the Oxford English Dictionary, that most respected dictionary that pays attention to the history of words, states that the earliest evidence for provoke is from the early 1400s, from a book called the Northern Pauline Epistles. Now, this is kind of interesting because this was, of course, way before the time when our Bible had been drawn together from all these various documents. And so in circulation was this Northern Pauline Epistles that had some of Paul's epistles that were being circulated. And they must have probably used that word exactly in this translation that we read today. You've heard me preach on this word provoke occasionally. I know that when I actually came here to preach my call sermon out there on the River Green some 4 years and a few months ago, I preached the story of the angel human who wrestles with Jacob, who provokes Jacob. What could be a better word than provoking? The Greek used in verse 24 of today's text is paroxysmon, and is used to imply a stirring up of a strong reaction or emotion, either positive or negative. So provoke by itself has no value judgment. It depends upon what you are provoking. So what's not to love about provoking others to do good? Especially at this moment in our culture when it seems that every bad behavior, every crass expression, every lie, every insult, every bit of fear-mongering leads to just more of the same in our public square. This is not what we want for our communal life. And this is not just a matter of taste I'm expressing here. This is actually part of our common good, our social fabric. It should not surprise us that studies show that receiving antisocial behavior, or even just observing it in others, makes the rest of us behave worse. And the cascading of public bad behavior acts just like a virus. So you know me, I'm nerdy. I spent yesterday using my access to my alma mater libraries to do some research. And there's lots. For example, one study concludes, if antisocial behavior is rare, one may be less tempted to behave antisocially, while if antisocial behavior is rampant, one may feel licensed to behave more antisocially. And unfortunately, recipients of bad behavior pay it forward, but rarely arbitrarily. Rather, they tend to choose those who are most vulnerable. For example, employees abused by their supervisors are more likely to be aggressive towards coworkers and subordinates at work or family members at home. Conversely, pro-social behaviors, either received directly from someone or observed when you see somebody else doing good, lead to increased altruistic behavior. Having observed Scott's enthusiasm for kindness, we are all more likely to participate in kindness. And Scott kindly hands out munchkins at coffee hour, and today even donuts. And we're all direct recipients, and so we have the motivation to pass that on to the next person. For those of you who are interested, these behaviors, these patterns of pro and antisocial behavior causing more behavior are true on social media as well. So even social media consumption that favors messages of encouragement or altruism or overcoming obstacles could lead to an increase of good behavior. Selfishness and cooperation are behaviors that are contagious. Not only does witnessing or receiving individual messages from others help us to be more altruistic and good, but our culture and its context is significant for us as well. In one study, altruism was highly correlated with more collectivistic cultures, and less altruism happens in individualistic cultures. This is bad news for us because we rank as one of the most individualistic cultures around the globe. But here is where the good news lies. We are Christians. We have that as part of our culture that overrides, and our job is not to be of the world, but to be in it. Christianity is actually a highly collectivistic way of being in the world. We attend to outcomes which are good for the us and the we, not just what's good for the me and the I. At church, we cultivate our capacities to regulate ourselves for the good of others, to tolerate discomfort for ourselves so that others may be comforted. And here Scott is again a good example. He stands at that Dunkin' Donuts counter for some time to ensure there is a supply of Dunkin' Donuts cards for the rest of us to easily purchase. We don't even have to go to Dunkin' Donuts, so that our neighbors who are homeless in Portland may be comforted. Provoke one another to good. What good can you do and encourage in others? Now, I know some of you old New Englanders like to do your good very quietly. But Paul's letter and the research says, quiet or not, do it communally. When you are thinking about doing something good, take a person along with you. Find a friend to share in the good work with you. Invite others to do good. In just this way, the deacons have been visiting our shut-ins twice a year with flowers, poinsettias, for Christmas and for Easter. And we're setting up this Care Partner program to invite more of the church into the joy of participating. And anyone can participate, and I mean anyone. All we're asking for is that you have several touches a year to the person you're partnered with. And what's a touch? It could be a card or a phone call or dropping off a flower or a favorite cookie. All those touches require not a whole lot of discomfort on your own part, but are so good for the person that you're reaching. And if you have more time, you can do more extensive touches like a visit or picking up groceries for someone or driving them to a doctor's appointment. So I join the deacons in suggesting that this is one way to be provoked to do good. And this is another reason why we are always inviting each other to share in special offerings like beads for girls' education, or 1 great hour of sharing, why we are always suggesting you can volunteer to serve at Bon Appetit, why you might want to join the outreach board, why you might want to help with the chili chowder lunch and the craft fair. Because in all these ways, we join together to provoke one another to do good, to share collectively in the joy of our unique Christian culture that stands against that out there. That may be contagious with antisocial behavior. Let us be contagious with love and care for one another.